My father's watch disappeared on a Tuesday. I searched the entire house for it. Paula didn't even get up from the armchair. If you lost it, it's your problem, Martine. It was my dad's. It has my name engraved on it. Uh-huh. Well, stop making a drama out of it. It wasn't just what she said, but how she said it, as if I were an annoyance. For months now, Paula had been glued to her phone, and I had learned not to ask too much to avoid her irritation. That Friday, I arrived early with a bottle of wine and a desire to try something. I found the apartment spotless and her ready to go out. Black dress, strong perfume, red lips. It didn't look like a spontaneous dinner. You look very dressed up, I said. Not everything revolves around you, she replied without looking at me. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. Don't wait up for me. We're going to finish late. Who are you going with, Paula? She rolled her eyes. With friends. Are you going to interrogate me too? How exhausting. She left and the silence stayed with me. At 11, my phone vibrated. One of her stories. Glasses, laughter, a location. La Cava. I kept staring at the name. La Cava was an expensive restaurant with dim lights and tables for two, not just any bar for the girls. I told myself it was paranoia. I put on my jacket. Anyway, I arrived and stayed at the bar with a glass of water, pretending to be calm. I saw her in the back. Paula was sitting across from a man in a white shirt with an easy smile. To one side was a blonde woman with the face of someone clocking in for work, looking at her phone. Zero enthusiasm. Paula, on the other hand, was laughing for real, touching her hair, leaning toward him as if the rest of the world was superfluous. I felt a hot blow to the chest. I wanted to walk to the table and end the scene once and for all. I couldn't. I stayed still, swallowing the mix of shame and rage. Then the messenger in uniform appeared, a small cardboard box, a tablet. The waiter guided him to Paula's table. The man said her name out loud. I heard it even from the bar. Delivery for Miss Paula Rios. Paula smiled reflexively until she read the label. Her smile faded, her eyes widened, her jaw hardened. Pure panic, no makeup. She opened the box right there. Inside, wrapped in soft paper, was my watch, my father's, the one I had lost. The plate gleamed under the light. To Martine with pride. I recognized the scratch on the crystal, the same one from our wedding. I was out of breath. The evidence was intimate, indisputable. Paula held it as if it burned her. The man beside her asked something. She didn't answer. The blonde finally looked up. Confused, Paula swallowed, breathed shortly. She looked desperately around the room, as if expecting someone to rescue her, and for an instant her gaze swept the bar. She almost saw me. I looked away on instinct, as if I were the guilty one. I stayed rigid, listening to the heartbeat in my ears. In that second, I understood the most important thing. The watch hadn't been lost. It had traveled with her to a place where I didn't exist, and the way Paula clutched the box to her chest, unable to hold my watch in everyone's view, confirmed to me that that night was not a dinner with friends. I stayed at the bar with numb fingers around the glass, my father's watch there in Paula's hands, like a trapped animal. From afar I saw her moving her lips quickly, justifying herself. The guy in a white shirt, tall, neat, catalog smile, frowned. Then a nervous laugh escaped him. The blonde watched them like someone witnessing an accident, without knowing whether to get involved. Paula slammed the box shut, looked at the messenger, and signed the tablet with a trembling hand, as if she could undo the moment with a scribble. Then she pushed the box toward her purse, trying to hide it with her forearm. That was when I saw her, the real Paula without her usual mask. It wasn't guilt or sadness. It was fear of being discovered and anger, because something hadn't gone according to her plan. My first reaction was to stand up and walk to that table, say her name out loud, ask her why my watch was there, make the whole restaurant here. But something colder won over me. If I confronted her in that instant, she was going to lie as always. She was going to get offended, call me paranoid, controlling, ridiculous, and I was going to be left wondering how much more was behind that box. So I stayed. I observed. Paula tilted her head toward the man in the white shirt. He lowered his voice. She replied with a forced smile. That smile she uses when she wants the world to see her perfect. Then she took out her phone and typed quickly. She looked toward the entrance, as if waiting to see someone or avoiding seeing someone. I clenched my jaw and moved toward the door slowly, without turning too much. Outside, the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in minutes I breathed. I stood on the other side of the street, under the light of a street lamp, pretending to check messages. My hands moved out of inertia, but my head was already building a map. Paola hadn't just lied to me. She had touched something untouchable. That watch was the only thing I kept from my father. She knew it. She had seen it in my hands when he died. She had heard me when I told her what it meant to me, and yet she took it like someone stealing a spoon from a hotel. 20 minutes later, I saw them leave. The blonde walked ahead in a hurry. The man in the white shirt approached Paola from behind and put a hand on her back. Too familiar. Paola leaned into him without caring about anything. They weren't friends. They were habit. They stopped by the cars. The blonde said goodbye with 2 mechanical kisses and left in a taxi without even looking back. Paola stayed with him, holding the box against her chest like living proof. The man said something. She let out a short laugh, and then he kissed her. It wasn't a stolen kiss, nor quick, nor awkward. It was a couple's kiss, the kind given when there's no longer guilt because it has been repeated too many times. I felt a buzzing in my head. I took out my phone without thinking and took a photo. 1, 2. The second came out better. Paola's profile, his arm around her, the box squeezed between them. Then they separated. He pointed to his car, a gray sedan. She shook her head and pointed to hers. They argued in whispers. Finally, he nodded. He caressed her cheek as if he owned that gesture and got in. Paola opened her SUV. Before getting in, she looked around again with that paranoia of someone who knows they're doing something dirty. For an instant, I thought she was going to see me. I hid behind a ridiculous tree, like a teenager hiding from the teacher. Her SUV started. I waited 10 seconds and followed her. I wasn't a hero. I was a man with my stomach in knots and my pride crushed, following the taillights of his wife through avenues that suddenly I no longer recognized. Paola didn't go home. She took the detour toward the center, turned twice, and parked in front of a modern apartment building with a doorman and cameras at the entrance. She got out with a box, fixed her hair, breathed as if rehearsing a version of herself, and entered without hesitation. I stayed half a block away in my car, staring at that door as if it could give me back control of my life. On the windshield, the reflection of my own face returned someone I didn't know. Sunken eyes, tight lips, a dangerous calm. I opened the phone gallery and looked at the kiss photo again. Then I checked the time. There were 40 minutes left before Paola would naturally return home and call me exaggerated if I asked anything. I put the phone away, and instead of going to knock on that door like an idiot, I started the car and returned to the apartment. I had to do it right, because if Paola had been capable of stealing my father's watch and smiling while hiding it, then I was no longer married to someone who loved me. I was living with someone who, when cornered, only thought about how to get out unscathed. And that night, I decided I wasn't going to give her that escape. When I opened the apartment door, the silence seemed like a mockery. Everything was exactly as I had left it. The sofa with the cushions aligned, the kitchen with the false shine of recent cleaning, the glass I hadn't managed to pour. Paola cleaned when she wanted to impress someone, not when she wanted to take care of us. I left the bottle of wine on the counter and sat at the dining table with the phone face down. I didn't want to see the kiss photo again. Not yet. What I needed in that moment was something simple, not to lose control. I heard keys almost at 1 a.m. Paola entered as if nothing had happened, heels in hand, hair slightly messy, the tired expression of someone returning from fulfilling a social outing. "Still awake," she said without affection. "I waited for you," I replied. She shrugged. "I told you it was going to be late." I saw her leave the purse on a chair, but she placed it in a strange way, close to her body, as if guarding something that shouldn't fall. The box. I imagined it inside, with the watch pressed against the cardboard. Paola took off her coat, walked to the refrigerator, and opened the door. "Didn't you eat?" she asked, as if guilt were far from her. I wasn't hungry. Well, too bad. I am. She took out a bottle of water and drank straight from the spout. It was a long night. Okay, I don't feel like arguing. Always the same. She declared a law and I had to obey. Did you have a good time with your friends? I said, measuring each word. Paula let out a dry laugh. Oh, Martine, here we go again with that. Yes, laughs, gossip, the usual, happy now. Her tone was so condescending that I wanted to smash the glass against the wall. Instead, I nodded slowly. I'm glad. Paula looked at me as if that answer didn't fit. Tomorrow I have a heavy day. I'm going to shower. She turned, but before leaving she added, and don't start with your insecurities. Really, it's tiring. She went to the bathroom and left the purse on the chair. The sound of the shower took a few seconds to start, and those seconds were enough for my body to move on its own. I stood up, walked to the chair, carefully opened the purse, and found the box immediately. White cardboard, label stuck, the edge barely crushed from the trip. My hand trembled when I took it out. It wasn't just an object. It was proof that my life had cracks I prefer to cover with patience. I opened the box. There was the watch, cold, heavy, familiar. The plate with my name hit me in the chest, as if my father were speaking to me from the metal. I took it and put it in the inner pocket of my jacket. Then I put everything back as it was. The paper, the box, the purse. Closed carefully. Exactly. Obsessive. If Paula noticed anything, she would turn it into a war. I returned to the table and waited. When Paula came out of the bathroom, with wet hair and a bathrobe too light for December, she looked at me with annoyance. What are you doing sitting there? You look like a ghost. Thinking. Well, think asleep. She opened the purse, took out the box, held it for a second, and her face tensed just enough to confirm she knew perfectly well what she had. Ah, this was given to me today. A delivery mistake. A mistake. My voice came out softer than I felt. Yes, a mistake. Don't start. She held my gaze defiantly. Or what? Now you're going to check my things too. I didn't answer. I just stood up. Good night, Paula. That indifference stung her. I saw it in her eyes. She needed my reaction to control it. How weird you're being, she murmured. Really, you're unbearable. Lately I locked myself in the room, but I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m, while Paula was still snoring, I got up dressed and left with a watch in my pocket, as if it were a heart rescued from a fire. I went to a bank safe deposit box. It wasn't a romantic gesture. It was an act of defense. When the employee closed a metal door and I left the watch inside, I felt something like relief. Then, without thinking too much, I dialed the number of a lawyer that a coworker had recommended months ago, when I still believed those things wouldn't happen to me. I need a consultation, I said when they answered. Today, I hung up and stood looking at the phone screen in the gallery. The kiss photo was still there waiting like a silent bomb. I saved it in a new folder and titled it with a simple word, evidence. When I returned home, Paula was already up, putting on makeup in front of the mirror as if it were a parade. I'm going out, she said without turning. Don't wait for me for lunch. Okay, she froze. Eyeliner pencil suspended. Aren't you going to ask where? What for? I replied, Paula. She pressed her lips. That type of woman hates when the other stops begging. How dramatic you are. She grabbed the purse and the box roughly. Then don't complain and you stay alone. I watched her leave. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't do anything she expected. I just waited for the right moment. Because now I had the watch safe, a photo on the phone, and an appointment with a lawyer. And Paula, without knowing it, had just started the last celebration of her comfortable life. The first call I made afterward was brief, direct. Hello, I told the lawyer when he answered. I want to do it right, and I want to do it now. The office smelled of old coffee and new paper. The lawyer, a man about 50 with a calm voice, listened to me without interrupting while I told the essentials. The missing watch, the dinner, the messenger, the box, Paula's face, the kiss, the building. I didn't embellish anything. There was no need. When I finished, he leaned his elbows on the desk. Martine, I'm going to tell you something people don't like to hear. Don't rush, but don't improvise either. What you have is a start. It needs organizing. He asked to see the photo. I showed it to him. He nodded slowly. Do you have access to accounts, cards, bank statements, insurance? Yes. In theory, we share everything. In practice, I bit my tongue. She does whatever she wants. Then, the first thing is to protect yourself. 2 things, finances and evidence, without doing anything illegal. And please, don't confront her without a plan. I left there with a short, clear list like a survival manual. Open an account in my name. Change passwords. Make an inventory of assets. Gather documents, backup messages and photos. Don't talk too much, and above all, don't provoke a scene that would give her time to erase tracks. That same day at noon, I had a silly temptation. Write to Paula and feel the release. I didn't. I bought a notebook and started noting dates and details, as if building a file. It disgusted me to see myself like that, but it disgusted me more to be naive. That night, Paula returned late again. She entered talking on the phone, laughing at something I didn't hear. Yes, of course. I'll tell you tomorrow, she said, and see me sitting, her laugh died. I'll call you later. She hung up and dropped the purse like throwing off a weight. Is something wrong with you? She asked, already with the attack tone ready. I didn't answer her. Paula looked at me with suspicion. That was the new thing. My calm unsettled her. I'm tired, she said. And really, if you're going to have that martyr face, better not talk at all. Perfect, I said, and stood up. That word threw Paula off. She stood staring at my back, as if waiting for me to change my mind and run to apologize for existing. Over the following days, I did what the lawyer said, without drama, without announcements. I opened my account, redirected my payroll, made copies of documents, stored my most important things in the safe deposit box, including some family photos and my father's death certificate. Everything Paula could use to manipulate me out of her reach. I also found something worse. Reviewing expenses, I saw repeated payments at a boutique hotel in the center, always on Thursdays, always under Pirios. And once a purchase at a jewelry store, a men's watch. It wasn't my father's. It was a new one, a gift. I understood why the old watch was with her. It wasn't just carelessness. It was a symbol. Paula took what was mine and turned it into a trophy for someone else. The last piece came on its own. One Thursday afternoon, Paula texted me, "Tonight, I have a work dinner. Don't wait up and don't start." I read it, and for the first time I smiled. 40 minutes later, I was already entering La Cava with a clean shirt and a neutral expression. I didn't go to the bar. I asked for a table. "For how many?" asked the host. "For 2, I said under the name of Martine. I sat with my back straight. I ordered water. I didn't want alcohol. I wanted clarity. At 9 sharp, Paula entered. She came arm in arm with the same man in the white shirt. He laughed confidently. She walked like a queen until she saw me. The reaction was immediate, almost comical. Paula stopped dead, as if someone had turned off her body. Her smile fell, her throat closed, her eyes searched for an exit. The man took one more step, and only then noticed my presence. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't make a scene, I just raised a hand, a minimal greeting, as if we were at a social gathering. "Hello, Paula." She blinked quickly. What are you doing here?" she whispered, but the edge in her voice tried to regain control. "Did you follow me?" I didn't say. "I came to dine." The man looked at me with a mix of confusion and annoyance. "Who is this?" Paula swallowed. And that indecision was the exact moment when her mask cracked in front of both men. "He is," she said, and her voice ran out of air. I completed the sentence for her, with the calm I had been practicing for days. "I am her husband." The silence fell heavy, like a wet tablecloth. The man in the white shirt froze. Paula clenched her jaw so hard that her cheek trembled, and then, true to her nature, she did what she always did when caught. She attacked. "Martine, you're sick. This is harassment. You're embarrassing me." I didn't respond to her insult. I opened the phone, found a kiss photo, and placed it on the table facing them. I didn't push it violently. I just placed it like someone putting down a bill. "I don't need to argue," I said. "I need you to listen to something." I took a manila envelope from my backpack and placed it next to the phone. Printed papers, organized. They weren't the divorce papers yet, but they were the first part of the plan. The separation, the basic conditions, the asset inventory, my exit proposal. Tomorrow at 10, I added, you have an appointment. The lawyer will explain the rest to you. Paula opened her mouth furious, ready to spit more venom. But she couldn't because the man in the white shirt was already seeing the photo and understanding that he wasn't the hero of any story, but an extra in someone else's ruin. Paula, he said in a low voice, are you married? She looked at him with hatred, as if he had also betrayed her by asking an obvious question. It's not what it looks like, she said, and it sounded ridiculous even to her. I stood up. Yes, it is what it looks like, I said. And by the way, my father's watch is safe. You never touch it again. Paula went pale. That detail hit her harder than the photo, harder than the papers, because it was confirmation that I had recovered something she thought she had the right to steal. I turned to leave. Before taking the second step, I heard her venomous, desperate voice. You're going to regret this. No one is going to love you like I did. I stopped only to reply with one sentence, without looking at her. That's what calms me the most. And I left. Behind me remained her uncovered face, the man who finally understood who he had gotten involved with, and an invisible box that she could no longer hide the truth laid open on the table with the label on it. That night, I didn't feel victory. I felt peace, because finally, after a long time, I had stopped being the spectator of my own humiliation. Yeah,